Naughty Dog, Incorporated is an American video game developer based in Santa Monica, California. Founded by Gavin and Jason Rubin in 1984 as an independent developer, the studio was acquired by Sony Computer Entertainment in 2001. Gavin and Rubin produced a sequence of progressively more successful games, including Rings of Power for the Sega Genesis Mega Drive and Way of the Warrior for the 3DO. The latter a very low budget but still plausible, offering a prompted Universal Interactive Studios to sign the duo to a 3-title deal and fund the expansion of the company. Mark Cerny, who was an assistant programmer for Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for Sega, convinced Naughty Dog to focus its new resources on creating a character-based platform game that would fully exploit the 3D capabilities of the new systems. Ultimately, this led to the release of Crash Bandicoot for the PlayStation on August 31, 1996. Naughty Dog developed 3 Crash Bandicoot sequels over the next several years. In January 2001, it was announced Sony would acquire Naughty Dog. After developing Crash Team Racing, the company began working on Jak and Daxter for the PlayStation 2. In 2004, Naughty Dog studio president and co-founder, Jason Rubin, left the company to work on a new project named Iron and the Maiden. In addition to their in-house game team, Naughty Dog is also home to the ICE team, one of SCE Worldwide Studios' central technology groups. The company's first PlayStation 3 title, Uncharted: Drake's Fortune, was released in 2007, its sequel, Uncharted 2: Among Thieves, in 2009, and Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception in November 2011. Naughty Dog was known for having a history of not only developing one game at a time, but only one franchise per console. A trend that has garnered criticism from fans. This lasted until Naughty Dog announced a new intellectual property called The Last of Us at the Spike Video Game Awards on December 10, 2011 for the PlayStation 3, which was in development by a second team at the studio and was released in June 2013 to overwhelming critical acclaim. Beginning in early 2014, the studio has experienced multiple departures, the highest level of departure being lead Uncharted writer Amy Hennig. Their current problem is the next installment in the Uncharted series, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, which the company teased at the PlayStation 4 launch event in November 2013 and then revealed on E3 2014 in June 2014. Company overview: high school students, Jason Rubin and Gavin, having experimented with Lisp and C++, teamed up to create video games and founded Jam Software in 1984. Rubin and Gavin chose to only create software for the Apple II and decided to create a skiing game for their second title. During production of the game, Gavin accidentally copied bootleg games over the only copy of the skiing game they had. Rubin then created a new skiing game called Ski Crazed within the weekend. Because the game played slowly, Gavin reprogrammed the game to play quicker. The game was later picked up and published by Vaudeville, who bought the game from Jam Software for $250. Rubin and Gavin then created an Apple IIGS graphic adventure game titled Dream Zone, which was released in 1988 and ported to the Atari ST, Amiga and personal computer. In 1989, Rubin and Gavin released another game titled Keith the Thief, which was published by Electronic Arts for the Apple IIGS, Amiga and personal computer. To make a fresh start and to dissolve their relationship with Vaudeville, Rubin and Gavin renamed Jam Software as Naughty Dog. In the early 90s, Naughty Dog created Rings of Power, which was published by Electronic Arts for the Mega Drive Genesis in 1991. The company's character in the logo is a grinning dog wearing goggles. By that time, Rubin and Gavin were in college and Naughty Dog was bankrupt. Rubin and Gavin then produced the 3DO interactive multiplayer title Way of the Warrior and presented it to Mark Cerny of Universal Interactive Studios. Cerny was pleased with Way of the Warrior and signed Naughty Dog onto Universal Interactive Studios for 3 additional games. Rubin and Gavin devised a plan to create a 3-dimensional action platform game. Because the player would be forced to constantly look at the character's rear, the game was jokingly codenamed Sonic's Ass Game. Production of the game began in 1994, during which Naughty Dog expanded its number of employees and invented a development tool called Goal-Oriented Object Lisp, to create the characters and gameplay. Cartoonists Charles Zimbillas and Joe Pearson were recruited to create the characters of the game, which resulted in the titular character Crash Bandicoot. After 14 months of development, the game was shown to Sony Computer Entertainment, who then signed on to publish the game. Crash Bandicoot was shown to the public for the first time at E3 and went on to become one of the highest-selling titles for the PlayStation console, selling over 6.8 million copies to date. Naughty Dog continued to develop 2 more Crash Bandicoot games, with a spin-off Crash Team Racing kart racing game. By then the studio was looking to develop games for Sony and not be constrained by Universal Interactive. Since Universal held the rights to the Crash series, Naughty Dog could not develop future Crash games in its own right. The studio would be bought out by Sony to avoid a repeat while it focused on developing the first game of the Jak and Daxter series. The Jak and Daxter games met similar success as the Crash games. During the development of Jak 3 and Jak X racing games, Rubin and Gavin slowly transitioned Evan Wells and Christophe Balestre to become co-presidents of Naughty Dog by the time the founders leave the studio. Since 2007, Naughty Dog has worked on the Uncharted series, and thus made their first official approach to realistic worlds and characters, in contrast to their Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter series, which featured fantastical worlds set in a completely fictional setting. The Uncharted franchise has been universally praised for its cinematic quality and technical proficiency, and has sold nearly 17 million copies worldwide as of April 2012. During the 2011 Spike TV Video Game Awards, Naughty Dog unveiled a new intellectual property, The Last of Us, described as a post-apocalyptic third-person action-adventure game, following the plight of a teenage girl, Ellie, and her adult protector, Joel, in a post-apocalyptic United States overrun with humans infected with a disease reminiscent of the infection caused by Cordyceps unilateralis. The Last of Us received universal acclaim upon release. In 2012 and 2013, Naughty Dog teamed with Mass Media Incorporated to release the Jak and Daxter collection. The collection contains high-definition ports of the original PlayStation 2 trilogy and was released for PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita respectively. On November 14, 2013, during the PS4 All Access launch event on Spike, Naughty Dog revealed 2 teaser trailers. The first unveils The Last of Us's single-player DLC, Left Behind, starring Ellie and Riley, a girl that she met during the events of the American Dreams prequel comic series. The second teaser revealed the studio's first PlayStation 4 title, the next installment of Uncharted, making the series their first IP to sprawl across 2 home console generations. On November 23, 2013, Corinne Yu, principal engine architect at Microsoft's Halo 4 developer 343 Industries, announced that she had joined Naughty Dog. On December 7, 2013, during the first edition of Spike's VGX award show, Naughty Dog won the Studio of the Year award for their work on The Last of Us. On March 4, 2014, Uncharted-led writer Amy Hennig left the studio, with Uncharted 3 director Justin Richmond and The Last of Us lead artist Nate Wells leaving soon after. Later, it was revealed that The Last of Us would be released on the PlayStation 4 as a remastered version. Development philosophy: Naughty Dog is known for its unique way of handling game development, as the studio doesn't have any producer in both of their teams. The work culture at Naughty Dog is very different to many other studios. There's a lot less middle management. The studio's lead effects artist, Keith Garrett, said, "It comes with a lot of pros and cons, but I think it definitely is one of our biggest strengths." Looking around at the rest of the industry, and this is something that we do talk about quite a bit, the companies that are doing really innovative, cool things are all the ones that don't have the management, like the business side, directly injected into the company. Sony's put us in this fantastic situation where we don't have any producers. We don't have any interactions with Sony corporate at all on the development. Naughty Dog has also complete freedom in basically every aspect of game design, and that also means that Sony Computer Entertainment, the parent company, doesn't prevent the studio from any implementation of game elements. ICE Team: Naughty Dog is home to the ICE Team, one of Sony's worldwide studio's central technology groups. The term ICE originally stands for Initiative for a Common Engine, which describes the original purpose of the studio. The ICE team focuses on creating core graphics technologies for Sony's worldwide first-party published titles, including low-level game engine components, graphics processing pipelines, supporting tools, and graphics profiling and debugging tools. The ICE team also supports third-party developers with a suite of engine components, and a graphics analysis, profiling, and debugging tool for the RSX. Both enable developers to get better performance out of PlayStation hardwares. Games developed as Jam Software, as Naughty Dog, partnerships with other developers, Insomniac Games, since working together in the same building on the Universal Interactive Studios backlot, Naughty Dog and Insomniac Games have had a close relationship. Producer Mark Cerny has worked extensively with both companies. They have made similar types of games. For example, in the late 1990s, Naughty Dog's Crash Bandicoot series and Insomniac's Spyro the Dragon series both competed on the PlayStation as character-heavy platforming games with imaginative environments. With the release of the PlayStation 2, the two series were left in Universal's hands, and both developers continued in friendly competition after the creation of their new flagship franchises. With the release of the PlayStation 3, both developers changed focus, with Naughty Dog's action-adventure series Uncharted and Insomniac's science-fiction first-person shooter series Resistance, although Insomniac continued to work on the Ratchet and Clank series. Both Naughty Dog and Insomniac have stated that they do not have plans for making a game together, even though, with Activision Blizzard holding the publishing rights to both the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon characters, there have been a pair of crossover games released between the two, while Sony released PlayStation Move Heroes and PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, both PlayStation 3 games which featured characters created by both Naughty Dog and Insomniac in the same game as well as characters created by Sucker Punch Productions. Ready at Dawn: Didier Malenfant, a former developer of Naughty Dog, left the company in 2003 to form a new development company, Ready at Dawn, with former members of Naughty Dog and Blizzard Entertainment. Also, Ready at Dawn developed Daxter, which was produced by Naughty Dog. Daxter is a midclass to Naughty Dog's Jak and Daxter series. High Impact Games: Naughty Dog shared its library of assets to High Impact Games in order to develop Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier. The company is also made up of former members of Naughty Dog as well as former members of Insomniac Games. Awards, wins: 2009, winner a EuroDICE Award for Overall Game of the Year, 2009, winner a Eurospike Video Game Awards for Game of the Year, 2010, winner a Euro Game Developers Choice Awards for Game of the Year, 2013, winner a Eurospike Video Game Awards for Studio of the Year, 2013, winner a Euro BAFTA Video Games Awards for Best Game, 2013, winner a EuroDICE Award for Overall Game of the Year, 2013, winner a EuroDICE Award for Innovation in Gaming, 2014, winner a Euro Game Developers Choice Awards. For Game of the Year, references. External links: Naughty Dog's official website.